After the pledge, please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. The clerk will call the roll. After the roll call, under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that MATV is recording this evening's meetings. Also, two of our Malden residents, John Mayara and Brian DeLacy, will also be recording. So just be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business. Oh, we're going to take this out of... Okay.
Okay, Councilor Anderson? Here. Councilor Kamel? Here. Councilor Condon? Here. Councilor Crowe? Here. Councilor DeMaria? Here. Councilor Matheson? Here. Councilor Murphy? Here. Councilor O'Malley? Here. Councilor Spatafora? Here. Councilor Winslow? Here. Council President Sika?
Here.
Okay. Oh, you want to say you're recording?
I already did.
Okay. Joseph LeBlanc will appear before the council to speak about the recently formed Runners Club of Malden and also the upcoming March 10th half marathon.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. Joe LeBlanc, if you would come up to the podium, please. Joe is a Ward 5 resident. They're happy to sponsor him to come in and speak before us this evening. Joe has actually run 2 marathons. He's run more than 2 marathons, but he's run, as he puts it, the #1 marathon in the world, the Boston Marathon, and he's done it twice. He did it in 2017 and in 2018. And he's taken his passion for running and turned it into the RC Club of Malden. So we'd like to have him tell us and our audience a little bit more about it and how it affects and impacts, many residents within the city. So take it away, Joe.
Hold on, Joe. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sure.
There you go.
Now? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Murphy and DeMaria, for allowing me to be here. My name's Joe LeBlanc, and so as Councilor Murphy was saying, I'm an avid runner, and last year or so I was looking to join a running club in Malden, and I was shocked to find that there wasn't one. I know there's a lot of runners in Malden. I see them out all the time. And so instead of complaining about it, I just decided to start one. So I created RC Malden, Run Club of Malden, last August. Our first run was September 2018. We're a free, casual running club. We're open to all runners of all abilities, all ages. A lot of running clubs out there really focused to the faster runners, more stronger runners. We're open to anyone. We meet every Wednesday at Hugh O'Neill's, 6 p.m. We go for a run of around 3 to 4 miles. Come back, you can have a drink, you can have some food, talk. My goal was to connect local runners, support Malden businesses, and be welcoming of all runners, and I think so far we've done that. We meet at Hughes every Wednesday. We've started a Saturday group runs where we meet over at Bikini Cafe, and those guys have been great down on Summer Street. And in preparation for the Malden Half Marathon that we're talking about, that's coming up on March 10th. It's going to bring 3,000 runners to Malden for the day, and we're really excited for that. So in those things, there are club teams, and we currently have the second largest team, which is amazing. The city of Malden has really pulled together for this. We're competing. There's like a prize for like the largest team. We're competing against much more well-known, established running clubs, and we're like right there with them. So if you know anyone who's running in this race, you're welcome to join us. You can follow us on any social media. We're at RC Malden. We have a website, Run Club of Malden. You're welcome to just come by Hughes any Wednesday night, 6 p.m., go for a run, and meet some cool people. Some other things that we've done is, and we'll be doing again, last September, we did a Couch to 5K program, which is a pretty common thing where we'll take, if you're interested in starting running, it's a 12-week program, and follow a gradual thing where you build up to the point where hopefully you can run a 5K. That's 3.1 miles. We timed that to end at the Fugi, the Friends of Oak Grove 5K around Halloween. And last year we had about 25 runners start the program. Not everyone finished the program, but several did, and we ran the 5K as a group, and it was a good time. So that's basically all I wanted to say, and just welcome anyone who feels like joining us anytime. We're here for you.
May I, Joe,
Go ahead.
could you just repeat once again how people can find you, what the Facebook is?
Yeah, absolutely. The main way we communicate with people is through Facebook. So the group is called RC Malden. If you search at RC Malden on Facebook, we come up. We have about 250 people that follow that right now. And we're on Twitter and Instagram as well. But the Facebook page is probably the best way to find us. Or like I said, just show up at 6 o'clock some night.
Okay.
And I'll be there. Or come down to we're going to have a big tent front and center at the Malden Half Marathon. I'm hoping to get the mayor to come over to our tent if he's watching.
I'm sure.
And yeah, yeah, so come on, say hi. I'm really tall, I stand out, and introduce yourself.
Would you just maybe add a little bit for folks who maybe want to just come watch the run, where it's going to be held and where they might, where the race is going to kick
Sure,
off?
so yeah, this just got announced today, and there's been a lot of changes with it, but it looks like the course is going to begin in Malden Center, right near here, I think, somewhere, like the starting line is going to be over by, on Exchange Street, I believe, and the course is going to run, will that be east over towards Everett, down Commercial Street, Canal Street. It's going to be a loop of about 2.5 miles, and they're going to do that 5 times, which is not optimal for a runner, but it'll be good for spectators because you're going to be able to see who you're watching all the time, and then the after party is going to be somewhere also right down in Exchange Street.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. And Dave, I just want to commemorate you on,
Joe.
first, Joe. I'm looking at Council Kamel. I apologize. Joe, I apologize. I want to commemorate you on starting the club. Myself and Council Crowe, we're going to start the DC Club, which is a drinking club, and we're going to meet you at you O'Neill's, and then when you guys run around, we're going to be back there when you guys are there.
I've done that several times. When I'm hurt, I go there myself and just go have a beer.
No,
Absolutely.
but in all seriousness, somebody who has always been jealous of the town or city to our, I think, west, which is Melrose. If you ever go down there on a weekend,
Yep.
they have a lot of runners, and they have a runners club, and it's nice to see those people. Not only are they running and getting out and exercise, but they bring their families out after, and they get something to eat
Sure.
and a coffee, and it makes really a community. So I think by having something like this, it really will change. I think not only downtown Malden, but get people to come closer together. So I applaud you. You couldn't find one, so you went out and built one, and I hope it does well, and I look forward to seeing hopefully some of my fellow councilors join that. I will not be joining. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm more of a sponsor kind of guy, but good luck and thank you
Keep that
so
in
much.
mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much. I know we've exchanged a few things on email. Exciting to have a run club to make sure more people in Malden have the opportunity to get that out there and be physically active. I know one of the things I was so excited to see, I've had this idea, we've been working with Everett, Medford, and Malden to create some great trails along the Malden River. And that is now setting up to actually have a great off-road loop. And so I would really look forward to working with the running club so that we could have a good, I think it's about a 5K, and there might be even potential to do more. So perhaps in 2020, we could have more of an off-road route and maybe less of loops. So I'd love to work with you. I initially worked with the Rotary Club to get the St. Patrick's Day race running in the first place. So it's great to see people in our community have just taken that and literally run with it and expanded it. So look forward to meeting you with you, and I'll get down there. Unfortunately, because of my back, I have to ride my bike and not run, but I'll get down there, and I've usually always ridden the race and helped guide people on the race.
Yeah.
But I love to come out, but exciting to see you get the club together, and look forward to working with you on some.
Thank you. I know
great
a lot of
things.
us are very excited about that.
Yeah,
Loop,
so
that's
we'll
that's
set
big
up a
news.
time.
Yeah.
Good, great, we'll work on
Excited.
that, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Kamel.
Thank you for coming here tonight. It's good to hear about the Couch to 5K. It makes it more accessible. So I did this Couch to 5K a couple of years ago when I actually got me to run continuously for 5K. I followed it up subsequently with the 5K to Couch, much easier, much more quick.
Yep.
So I might need a second.
Thank you. Yeah, we're here.
A second run at that. So yeah, and also as a Rotarian. Thank you for all the folks who are participating in
Awesome.
it, and it's going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you. One of our runners that's been the most supportive is actually here, and so he was a runner in the past, and then had taken a little break, and he ran the Couch to 5K program and made it all the way through, and he's running a marathon. That's Don. He's running a full marathon next month. So it
Good
just
luck.
yeah, it's crazy. It works. Thank you.
Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for bringing this to Malden. I think it's definitely something that is helping enriching our community, the fabric of our community, something great to do outside and see our great city. You might not know this, it's been a long time, but I actually was the captain of our cross-country team when I was in high school. We ran all up Blueberry Hill in the back of Pine Banks. It brings back a lot of memories. But when I went to college, I stopped running and gained my freshman 30. There was no freshman 15 for me. So I might also have to do the couch to, what was it, couch to
5K.
To 5K. We'll start with 2K maybe. During this conversation, I looked at the route, and I did send an email off to make sure that all the potholes are filled on this route. So hopefully you won't have any problems with that.
Thank
But
you.
thank you again for bringing it to Malden, and I look forward to seeing the race.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor Maria.
Hi, thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank you, Joe, for coming in front of us. I think so many great groups in our city validates your reason to plug yourself here, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much,
thank
and
you very
please
much for
share
having us.
that with the runners.
I will. I
Okay?
will. Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to the half marathon.
Half marathon, yeah. Thank you very much.
Next order of business.
Julianne Orsini, Chairman of the Malden Community Preservation Committee, will be here before the council to present the committee's funding recommendations.
Hello, councilors. I do not run. I barely walk, so I'm very impressed. Thank you very much for taking the time to let me come before you and give you our recommendations. I'm struggling with a little bit of a cold, so please, I have a piece of gum, so sorry about that. I just want to start off by, once again, thanking the committee for their hard work. They were all here, but of course had to run for us to have our committee meeting. But they've just really an amazing group of people and have done just a wonderful job in putting this program and these recommendations together. Also, I just want to take a moment and thank all the applicants, anyone who put pre-application or application forth. It's really a lot of work and a lot of commitment. And if they didn't make it through this round of funding, we certainly hope we see those for a future round of funding. If it pleases the council, I'd like to just jump right into the list and run through them. I think you all are familiar with, if not all of them, most of them. The first one is the project up at High Rock. It's to add some site signage, some trails, add some benches. They're working with local scouts, and I believe the Eagle Scout is going to do the trail design. They've asked for $5,300 to do this work. This is the type of project that I think we really want to be seeing here in Malden, where it's really community-driven, the residents really working with a local organization to make this happen. So we are very happy to see this project and hope you accept our recommendation to fund this. you want to go all the way through the list? Do you want to do each one?
What does the council
Are
wish
we
to do? Go
voting
through
on
the
this
list?
tonight?
Is everyone okay with going through the list?
We
Yeah.
have the list?
Yeah, you have the list.
That's right, she just passed it up. Are we voting on this right now?
Are we voting on this tonight, or
And not
doesn't it
talk
go
about
to
any
the
of them?
mayor?
Oh, okay.
I think we're just,
The goal tonight is hopefully that you folks could, that the council will actually accept our recommendations. That's the goal tonight. So, Councilor O'Malley has asked if I just list them, is that fine? to
That's
do?
fine,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. The next one is the library archives, to build out an archive for archives. The next project is the World War I Memorial Park. This is adding for the open space around the actual memorial. The Malden Art Line is doing some pocket parks, so they're doing one at Fitzgerald Park and then one at what they're calling the Ferry Street Hub. It's at the corner of Ferry and Center Street. Community gardens, there are already two existing community gardens, and this is to add 2 more. Fellsmere Park project is to help to actually rehab the park. This particular piece is to fix the bank and add, what's it called? Rip-rap boulders. The next project is Roosevelt Park. This is to add, what's it called? Artificial turf. So artificial turf does not fall within CPA. So what the Redevelopment Authority has actually asked for is for CPA funds for everything for the project. In addition to that, the Beard Fund will actually pay for the artificial turf. And the last one is Trafton Park. The community has come together and is looking to do a feasibility study on can they actually implement some of their ideas within that park and what would make sense. The total spend, or the total request, is $618,538, which is just about, what's nice about this number, it's actually just about what we bring in revenue numbers. So it's a nice, not too much, not too little. And we didn't do that on purpose, it actually just happened that way. Any questions?
yep. Councilor Condon.
Thank you. Julie, I'd like to thank the Community Preservation Committee, because I know you put a lot of long hours into these requests, and every single one of these requests, to me, look like a very positive project. I would like to point out, though, on the World War I Memorial Park, probably because the money didn't come in late, but every single counselor up here contributed to that World War I memorial, and I think maybe when this application was submitted, they only put in the ones that had already given, so I apologize to the counselors, but you were very, very supportive for that wonderful project. I was unaware that we were voting this tonight. I don't have a problem doing that. I don't know if it should go into finance, or we could vote it tonight, because I don't think anybody would have any problems with these projects.
So if I may, talk a little bit about the process that we've gone through. So what we did is we presented these to the mayor to see if he would accept these. He's accepted these, and he will send out a formal paper to you. So that would be the right process. Our hope is that we could just reach out to the folks the applicants, and let them know that, yes, this has been accepted, and we can move forward with the next step of putting forth a letter of intent to them. But just to let you know what our process has been thus far.
Thank you. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, no, Julie, I really appreciate the work of the committee. I mean, I think I know that was something great. I know I worked with Councilor DiMaria to really make sure we had a robust Community Preservation Committee, and you guys have lived up well beyond that, so I really appreciate that. I mean, I think as a council, I mean, I know, you know, in some of the other communities I've been involved in, I mean, their council finance committee did kind of take a deep dive on these. I mean, so that it's something I know, I think I'm pretty confident of the list. I mean, I think this is a shorter list. I mean, one of the things we do have to think of as a council, this is the first time through, but as more and more projects come through, it's sometimes good to get some institutional memory on our point of view, and actually meet the people who might be implementing those. A lot of these have a public component, but especially if we start getting involved with nonprofits for historic preservation and other type of things, we may want to reach out to them and make sure, kind of do our due diligence and kick the tires. But I think, so since so many of these have a strong public component, I mean, I would be, I think I'm good with, accepting this tonight, but it's really up to the council to, I'm go either way, or just have the finance committee do a little bit due diligence. I'm either way, but I think the committee's done a great job. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you all very much. I'm very happy to see that the community garden is one of your items that you're in full support of. And I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench into this at the moment. I didn't bring anything with me because I didn't realize we were going to be accepting this. I thought we were just going to get a presentation tonight. Does anybody have my grant proposal with them? The figures look off on the garden a little bit.
The monies?
Yeah. I thought it was
It's 65. Is that right? It was 65?
Right, this is saying 44 and 44.
I can adjust this. I can fix this.
You can fix this
Yes,
because
can
I
fix
only
this.
have like 20.
60 what? You're
yeah,
correct.
It was kind of, okay, thank
You're
you.
correct.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, I'll fix that.
Thank
My
you.
apologies.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So, okay. Other than that, I'm good.
Councilor Kamel.
Julie, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for all the work you put into this. I know it must have been tons and tons of work going through all the applications. If we were to have a resolve tonight to make that easier, I would support that. But in terms of if we're going to get a paper from the mayor for the official channel to the finance committee, I think that's probably the right channel to do this, and then we can do a due diligence. Just as the matter of, I'm not complaining. I see 2 wards. But no, I think that's the way we should do it. That's my recommendation. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councilor Murphy, did you have something you wanted to add real fast?
I did, and I'm sorry, I kind of get tied up in the numbers, but I just, I know how much work you put into pulling all of this together and reviewing all the applications, but I think one of the things that I really want to say and make sure that everyone who's listening tonight really recognizes is that you were a committee who came together for the very first time and really had to set up the whole process, had to set up what an application looked like, how you were going to work together, how you were going to evaluate things. So there was this whole process that went on that you spent months and months and months doing. And for a new committee to actually come to this end point with all that in place, to leave it for the next next year after year after year. I mean, you folks deserve just so much thank you from all of us for really, doing it the right way. You really did do it the right way, and you have our undying appreciation for all the time and hard work that you put into it. And I think they need a round of applause. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Excuse me. Thank you again for all the work that you guys did. I know it was a long haul. The only question I did have is on the match portion. Does that include both in-kind and cash, or is it just the cash?
Where are you looking?
Alternative funding amount.
So the alternative funding amount was, the projects would come in and they would ask the CPC for a certain amount of funding, and this was funding that they received from other sources.
But only cash, not in-kind, correct?
There were some that were in-kind, but the in-kind amounts tended to be relatively small.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't want to be redundant, but you really did put it, we see you all the time, the old committee here later than we are sometimes. So really for all the hard work that the whole committee put in, so we thank you for that. I do think that this should be going to finding something, just as Council Murphy mentioned, just making sure that we have all, and we don't have anything in front of us to actually to vote on. It's not docketed. It's just docketed as the person to come, but we'll have to be talking about a couple of Ward 1 things that we'll be looking at next. But, so I just really wanted to say thank you. I do see that it's, all across the city, lots of things are happening, so it's very, very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Spatafora.
That's the beauty of going like third to last. I get to repeat everybody, but I know you've done a tremendous amount of work. I know the members of the committee here as well, so I know you get to get up and speak in front of all of us, but I do want to recognize the other members who've done a tremendous amount of work. It's never easy, I think, when you have a pool of money and you have all these probably great ideas for the community, and then the committee has to do their due diligence and their work, and then come in and find a project that is not only meets the standards, but also is good for the community. So I know that job's never easy. It's almost like a budget process for us. There's a lot of great things out there, but there's only so much a pool of money. But I will say just to the community, this was the purpose of having a group like yourselves that are citizen and they're very engaged, and you could spend a lot more time than probably this body could, but we could certainly help by helping with our recommendations and our influences. But the purpose of passing the Community Preservation Act is exactly what is going on here, where these are a lot of great ideas, and while they probably would be funded other ways, it might not be as ample, or it might have been 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So exactly that extra tax dollar has given us the benefit to do not only some of our parks, but the gardens, and a lot of the things I like to call it's the cherry on top. It makes Malden even one step better, and is always providing funding mechanisms that we would love to put in our budget, but unfortunately we can't on a timely basis. So I think Council Winslow said it best. This is the first time. Look forward to many more of these and starting to seeing how the progress of these dollars come in. And I think hopefully the residents understand, yeah, your tax has gone up, but now there's more places to play, there's more flowers, there's a whole lot of other things we can do with this. I don't want to call it found money, but the ability for us to do the things that we always want to do. So again, thank you, and thank you to the council members.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you all. You're certainly worthy of our appreciation for all the reasons that my colleagues have stated. I would like to say that it has been a long road to get to this place that we are today. There were many, many opportunities for this to go off the rails. First, in order to avail ourselves of the CPA, residents had to take time out of their lives and go door to door and to their neighbors and to events and get signatures for a petition. And then it went in the ballot. And then our voters came out and approved it. And then, I don't have to tell you, it was very difficult for our council to come together and formulate this ordinance and then seat the committee members. And then to you folks, you started up a brand new process from scratch. Sure, you looked at other communities, but it's not easy to come up with your rules and regulations, choose your chairman, choose your criteria. I went through this process with you. I saw that you were very, very diligent. You took yourselves very seriously, as you should. And I think that you exercised your authority quite perfectly. There's still money left over. You're funding projects that I think have a lot of support in the community. And with that, I'll finish my thank yous. I do have a couple questions. So I see the total appropriation here is $618,538. Do you have a breakdown as to which of that is allocated to parks and open space, which to historic preservation, and which amounts go to affordable housing? I imagine none to affordable housing at this point.
I absolutely could get that. I can get that for you.
Yeah.
And just go and get that for you.
Right, because those are the statutory categories, and I would like to know for my own edification.
Yep.
Also, I think we're in our second cycle of receiving funds.
It's FY19 is the third, I believe.
Coming on to the third. So what has the state match been? I know that's dwindled over the years, and when we finally got into the game, it wasn't 50%, it was more like 15%. What was it the last couple of years that we've received it?
I think it has dropped down. Last year, I believe it was about 10%. It's really dropped down. The CPA, which is the Community Preservation Coalition, is working extremely hard to get the state to really up that.
Yeah.
They have, I think it's some insane, like 180 state representatives have now signed on to making sure that this fund is actually funded to a higher level.
Good.
Because they have so many, it's like 173 communities are now signed on to this. So they're working very diligently to make sure that the state investment is there as well.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear. And how do you like chairing the committee?
It's a challenge. I don't, it's a challenge. It's
Well-
wonderful. It's a great group. Just
Well,
really amazing group.
I was going to say that next. It seems to me that they were all very, very engaged. They took their responsibility seriously. They did the work that they were assigned to do, and I think we can all be very proud. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Counselor.
Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Julianne, for presenting the committee in such an eloquent way. This is a dream come true. I think this started for many of us up here in 2015. As Councilor Matheson said, it was a challenge getting it to fruition, getting it actually community preservation rather than political. So I am so grateful for that. Also, my husband keeps saying, when are they spending that extra tax money? So it's great that you're here presenting that.
Yes, thank you.
And if he's watching, he'll know what I mean. My one question is, how many grant requests were there in total?
So there were 20 pre-applications. There ended up being 14 applications. Some of them were they more like in the inception stage. They were more just ideas.
Yeah.
So when we actually got through them, there was this 8. This 8 really stood out as being complete, I will say.
Okay.
So the ones that we have rejected for FY19, we have almost across the board said, please resubmit at a future funding, because as we move forward, as you all have said, there are still some absolutely amazing projects out there that we look forward to bring to you again in the future.
Yeah.
So 2014 and 8.
Yeah, it's a very hard process. I run a 501c3 for my son, and it's such a hard process with all the applicants that come forward, and you just want to give everybody what they are asking for. So kudos, and I see your committee members in there supporting you. Just a great job, and thank you. I think that was it, yeah. So 3.5 years in the making, and here we are. Congratulations.
Right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I just had another quick point. I think the other great thing about this is I always talked about how the CPC should work to leverage the community, and I just make a note of, the plan is to, spend $618,000. Well, that's leveraging $640,000. So we're, for every dollar our community is putting in, we're going to get almost $1 in some other type of funding. So that's really one of the great things and about the CPA and what the work you've done. So I think you should make sure you make that total as well.
That was very impressive. Thank you.
Okay, good. So make sure you get that. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Councilor Condon.
Thank you. Julie, are you all done funding all the projects for FY19?
So we have left open that if there's anything coming in that is time sensitive, we absolutely will consider it off funding cycle. I know there's a couple of ideas out there where folks are working hard to kind of get their ducks in a row. And so if they came back to us and said, we have, for whatever reason, this is time sensitive, we'd like you to consider it. We've been open to that. We've said we will do that.
Has any schedule been set up for FY20? As far as like pre-applications or when you'll be looking at the requests for next fiscal year?
So we haven't talked about that as a committee, so but I will say we were thinking we would follow what we did this past year, because that seemed to work fairly well. We might tweak it a little bit. The one next big step for us is to go back. We were supposed to do a public hearing every year. So our public hearing, we're hoping we'll schedule for March. So if we are able to do that, then we should be on track for hitting the same dates that we did in FY19.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of the chair, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for all your work. I look forward to these projects being fulfilled and seeing how wonderful additions they are to our community. I think we're going to refer this to finance while we wait for the paper from the mayor. Since you are listed on the docket as a speaker, we can't vote on it, but we can refer it to a committee.
Great.
So is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay. So on Councilor Kamel's motion to refer this to finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's been referred to finance, and we look forward to the letter from the mayor.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Next order of business. Public comment. We have one resident who wishes to speak. John Mayara.
Hello, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. I know you're ordaining the height limits tonight, and so this is just really to record some public comments, not to make any big grandstands.
Can you just state your name and address, please?
Yes, sorry.
No,
I am
it's-
John Mayara, and my address is 66 Olive Avenue in Malden. So we've already heard a lot of arguments, the numeric arguments for this, and these are just some qualitative points against strict height limits, specifically for residential. Many of the zoning rules, such as this one, come from worries about traffic and congestion, which, I understand, but economic growth comes from activity, and so naturally you have a conflict between worries about congestion and the desire for growth. Malden has grown along with the Boston metro area, quite a bit less than, say, Everett or Boston, but more than other neighboring communities, and we need to try to capture value that comes along with the growth. So, an observation is that taxes from rentals, of course, come from the residents who live there. They pay with their rent, naturally, a proportion of tax, and that does help to fund our tax exemption. If we're not satisfied with the rates, then the redress for that is to work with the state and try to, say, get them to allow different rates. And finally, the new residents contribute to our economy and our community. These are our neighbors, our customers, and our employees. I don't think that we really want to just gainsay any kind of new apartments. A much better process for any of these kinds of projects is to evaluate each one based on costs and benefits. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next order of business.
Approval of the minutes for February 5th, 2019.
On Councilor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes. Councilor O'Malley.
One moment, I have. So there were just a few, do we have the minutes in front of us, or I have a copy of, I don't know if you all, sorry, there's some feedback. There was just a few modifications that I think need to be made. On the approval of the minutes, it was 47-19 and 48-19. The minutes say that Councilor Murphy motioned to approve the minutes, but it was Councilor Winslow that motioned to approve the minutes. And on paper 54-19, myself seconded the motion to refer it to committee. Those are just the two modifications. So I'd move that we amend the minutes from February 5th to reflect that Councilor Winslow, in fact, motioned to approve the minutes during that meeting, and that I seconded paper 54-19 to refer it to committee.
On Councilor O'Malley's motion to amend the minutes from February 5th. Oh, sorry, Councilor Spatafora.
I'm not opposed to seconding it. The only thing I would say is, how do we know Councilor O'Malley's memory is correct? Should we just make a motion to table and then go to the videotape? Because that's the only thing I would say. It's not that I'm saying he's wrong, but we just shouldn't assume that he's right. We should go to the videotape and confirm. I can make a motion just to table and then just to confirm.
Okay. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to table, seconded by Councilor Kamel. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Next order of business. It's been tabled.
Resolved that it is a sense of the Malden City Council that the MBTA should update the intersection of Commercial and Center Street and reconfiguration of the bus depot at the Malden Center T to ensure pedestrian safety.
I think my papers are wrong. Hold on.
I got number 9.
I don't have it.
Was by Councilor.
Okay. Counselor Winslow.
Yeah, I don't know if Councilor O'Malley wanted to speak first for the paper, but, okay. Yeah, no, I'm supportive of this resolve. I know that in the past few weeks, there had been a couple accidents with pedestrians at the intersection of Center and Commercial Street with MBTA buses. So there was, the MBTA was to the point where they issued a safety alert and were redirecting the buses around that intersection. I was able to meet with the safety people and Yem Lip, and I actually committed $5,000 in my mitigation money so we could do immediately fix the traffic signal. So now if you go down there, the pedestrians have their own phase, and the buses and the pedestrians go with different things. So that's a first step. I did just talk to the city engineer Yem Lip tonight. He says that it would be worthwhile to look at this further. So I think it is worthwhile to take a further look at this. A few years back, there was a set of students from Northeastern University School of Civil Engineering that studied the intersection. There's several ideas that can be done to make it even safer. The MBTA is also planning to change the configuration of the station anyway, and we have not really chimed in as a city to think of how that's going to impact us. So I think it's very timely, and I think I support the resolution for all those reasons. Thank you.
Counselor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Councilor Winslow, for doing a great job of kind of laying the groundwork for kind of what has been going on. As he said, there were 2 accidents involving a bus and a pedestrian crossing Route 60. I think we all know that Route 60 is a very difficult road for people to cross. It is something I've always found is strange, the fact that east of Holden Street, it's Route 60 is 1 lane in each direction. It balloons to 4 lanes going through Malden Center, and it immediately shrinks back down to a single lane in each direction at the First Parish Church right over by, intersects with Pleasant Street again. I do think that this whole corridor really needs to be looked at. As you'll see here, this resolve has been sponsored not only by myself and Councilor Winslow, but also Councilor Crowe and Condon. We each represent a portion of this area here that is impacted specifically with this intersection. As Councilor Winslow also said, the MBTA is looking to reconfigure their parking in their bus depot. The problem is they're suggesting eliminating the western bus depot. Not eliminating the western bus depot, but eliminating the pickup and drop-off area on the western side near the parking lot. So what they're suggesting right now is to move all those additional cars onto the eastern side, where we just had this situation going on. So this, I think, would help us let them know that we need them to look at this a little bit closer, make sure that they're focusing not just on the buses' feasibility of getting in and out of the station, but they're also looking at the feasibility for all users, both pedestrian, bicyclists, as well as motorists. So I'd appreciate your support of this tonight, and I would move that we adopt, but I do not want to stifle any debate.
Counselor DiMaria.
Thank you, Madam President. So we did get a recap from the mayor's office about all the great work that was done on this resolve. I know there's a few more things that we are being talked about. I do want to personally thank Yem Lip, who was our city engineer, for working super hard on this, especially with the accident and the helicopters that went in our area for about 2 hours that night. I'd like to ask the council if I could add my name as a sponsor to this. I would very much appreciate it because it's definitely a safety concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President, and I too, Council DiMaria, ended with that. I'd like to start with that. I'd like to add my name to this, but also, I think, and not that I want to amend this, but my only approach to this would be is, while there's been 2 accidents here, as of recent, there was also an accident probably 4 years ago where the bus actually went through the old Dr. I think it was Harold's dentistry there. The bus went through there. That was less than 10. So the bus went through there. But I think, and I completely understand that the focus is on that, but the focus should be on the entire circumference of that train station. Because as somebody who uses that train on a daily basis, while it is awful to see an accident, I think Council O'Malley said it best, where there are concerns there not only from the motorist standpoint and the cyclists, but the pedestrians. And somebody who drives through the parking garage on a daily basis, people are crossing, just cutting over in front of meridian strips, not using the crosswalks. Somebody can step out and get hurt. Buses are trying to turn where people are not on the sidewalk. So I completely support sending this resolution, but I would want to do, my opinion would be the entire circumference. I know Council Winslow and O'Malley mentioned the configuration, but also, I don't know if we can get somebody here from the MBTA to come here and speak to them directly, because while we control those streets, the amount of people going in and out of that train station and the way it's designed is awful. If you go to some of the newer ones, and I know they're new, it's just a lot more friendly. And with the days of Uber now, you come down there at 5 o'clock, and I know the mayor's office and the police chief has sent some police officers there after like 5 o'clock. There are dozens of cars picking people up. There's people parked in no parking areas. This will be a problem going forward, especially when we open up Pleasant Street. So I think we should focus on this, immediate attention, but I also think we should also look at, hey, if we're going to fix this intersection, we should probably look at the ones to the right, the north, south, and west too, because it's all going to be one piece in a timely fashion. That's all I would ask. Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I mean, if the committee's willing to amend it, I would go for that. If you can read it the record when you want. I'm all set. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Spatafora is right. It is just total bedlam down there. And I would like the residents of Malden to be aware that we actually pay as a city $2 million a year for the benefits of having a public train go through our city. We pay $2 million for Malden Center. We pay $2 million for Oak Grove. I have a gripe with Oak Grove because we get the bill, Melrose gets the benefit with the transit-oriented development over there. Transit-oriented, I'm trying to say. With respect to this, having just attended a meeting about the renovations to the Oak Grove station, they're putting $25 million into that. They are limited about where they can invest their improvement money. So if we do get too specific, back to Councilor Spatafora's point, it might be better that we resolve to ask them to improve all adjoining areas of MBTA property. That kind of vagueness might give them the ability to do some work that might not be anticipated by the specific language here. And like Councilor Spatafora and Councilor DiMaria, I would love to join in as a sponsor. That's something that we've all been amenable to these days, and I think this is something that we can all get behind. So let's take them to task.
Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. It's hard for me to understand, looking at their solution, they're going to move the cars on the east side of the MBTA station over to the west side, no, from the west side over to the east side near Exchange Street, where it's an absolute disaster. But if that's their fix, I can't believe it. I'd like to know what engineering school they went to. The east side, they line up on one side of the street, pick them coming up, and they go on their way. I mean, the west side, sorry. They line up right along, they pick up whoever they're picking up from the station. The east side is a disaster. You're fighting the buses coming out. If you're in that inside lane, you have to watch out for the buses coming right out into your lane. It's just a mess, and they want to add to it. Doesn't make sense to me, because I go there a lot to pick up people. Thank you.
Counselor O'Malley.
So I would just say that in order to accommodate the more vagueness that we're looking for, I would move to amend the paper by striking the intersection of Commercial and Center Street, but instead have it say that it is the sense of the Malden City Council that the MBTA update all adjacent intersections and reconfigure the bus depot at the Malden Center T to ensure pedestrian safety. Do you want me to say it one more time? So we're striking the intersection of Commercial and Center Street, and instead we're going to insert all adjacent intersections and reconfigure the bus depot at the Malden Center train station to ensure pedestrian safety. And in addition to the amendment, well, I guess the amendment comes first. So just a second on the amendment would be great. Thank you.
Counselor Spatafora.
Would it be possible to add that we have somebody from the MBTA and probably include the state delegation to come before the city council to explain it too as well? They won't come. Well, I think we should put it in there at least. You're right. I mean, if they don't come, they don't come. But I would invite them to come before the council. Because I don't want them to bury us with paper with diagrams if they're going to send us anything at all. Let's have them before the council. It could be 6 months from now, it could be never, but I think we should at least put it out there again to Council Matheson's point. They probably won't show up, but at least we've asked them.
Okay. On Counselor O'Malley's motion to amend, seconded by Counselor Matheson. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? And then we're going to adopt this paper? Excuse me. On Counselor Spatafora's motion to... Say that again?
To have the representative
To
of the...
have a representative from the MBTA come before us to discuss safety and state delegation to come before us to discuss improvements to the MBTA station, Malden MBTA station. Seconded by Counselor O'Malley. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. On Counselor O'Malley's motion, pass as amended. Seconded by Counselor Winslow. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Next order of business.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Be it hereby ordained that Section 35, subsection 1 of Chapter 11 of the Rules and Ordinance of 1991 be amended as follows. Insert or public crosswalk after abutting a public sidewalk. Insert a crosswalk after shall make said sidewalk. Insert or crosswalk after slush from said sidewalk. Number 4, strike, remove snow, slush, and ice from the sidewalk within 24 hours after the snowfall has ended or the Public Works Director has declared the snow removal operations are completed, and insert for non-commercial purposes, properties, excluding multifamily properties of 5 or more units, remove snow, slush, and ice from said sidewalk within 24 hours after snowfall has ended or the Public Works Director has declared the snow removal operations are complete. For commercial properties and multifamily properties of 5 or more units, remove snow, slush, and ice from said sidewalks within 12 hours after snowfall has ended or the Public Works Director has declared that snow removal operations are complete. That's by Councilor O'Malley and Councilor Winslow.
Counselor DeMaria.
Thank you. And before the sponsor actually talks, I just would like to ask, these have been discussed with our DPW director, all these. That would be my question.
There's a letter.
Oh, there's a letter.
Counselor O'Malley for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. To Councilor DiMaria's point, in your packets, you'll see a letter dated the 14th from our DPW Director, Robert Knox, which says, "Dear Councilors, I write in full support of Councilor O'Malley's as well as Councilor Winslow's proposed changes to Section 11-35, removal of snow and ice from sidewalks. These changes will improve safety, walkability, and accountability after a snow event. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Robert Knox, Jr." So just, there was a lot of verbiage in here, but to boil it all down to what we're doing is we're adding that, something that we've already encouraged is that in addition to clearing the sidewalk in front of your home, we're asking that you also clear the ramp to the crosswalk. Most people do this. So we would need to, I think, just amend 1 through 3 to add ramp after crosswalk, crosswalk, crosswalk. The other thing that's pretty substantial, and as the ward councilor representing the downtown, it's been particularly apparent, the 24-hour period is, I believe, sufficient for residential properties that are beneath five units. And most of our residents clear it well within 24 hours. But for commercial properties and multifamilies above 5 units, which are basically commercial properties but aren't taxed that way, 12 hours is more sufficient, in my opinion, from the end of a snow event. One of the reasons being is there are a lot of people walking around in commercial areas like the downtown and leaving sidewalks unshoveled or unprepared for 24 hours impedes businesses, and it is a huge issue for people who are not necessarily as mobile as others. So I'd ask that we adopt this or we pass this tonight so that it is in effect before the next snowstorm. But I'm not going to stifle any debate. The only thing I would say at this point is that we amend 1 through 3 by adding ramp after crosswalk. Looking forward to a healthy discussion.
Thank you. Counselor Condon.
Thank you, Madam President. We got another month of winter, 1 month of winter left. For us to just throw this at people that live on corners on Main Street, it's tough enough for a lot of these people to clear around their homes. Never mind when snow is plowed into the street corners. I've seen street corners 6, 7 feet high in a good snowstorm. Now you want to stick that on the person that lives near that crosswalk. I would move that we table this, look at this for the next winter. You got 1 month left. I just don't think you pass something like this and throw this on the homeowner with a month of winter left. I'll move to table it indefinitely.
Counselor Kamel.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the 12 hours. What if the snow stops falling at 5 p.m.? I mean, even the commercial units, you're saying they have to have it cleared by 5 a.m. then? Or, point being, I mean, is that, okay. Yeah, I mean, if it was language more like by 7 a.m. following morning or by, but.
There's a motion to table.
It does?
Yep, yeah.
Okay. Can I have everybody else speak first? Counselor Kamel, you're good? Okay. Counselor Winslow.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, it isn't really fair for residents to throw this out and have it be for this year, but it's important to kind of, strike while the snow is on the ground so that we could be ready for next year. So my suggestion would be to refer it to rules and ordinance so we can consider it. I mean, I know I'm supporting this. I know, like in Maplewood Square, it kind of drives me crazy that there's, landlords right right one block up from Maplewood Square. They have a great snow plow that plows their sidewalk, and then people are climbing over those banks that are 3 foot tall. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a way we can work to specify that, but I also know a lot of times, you know, I might walk down from the Y to do some business downtown, and that people have not in the commercial areas done some, like Dartmouth Street and that type of thing, and that really impedes people's ability to get around. And, you know, what also happens in the commercial areas in particular, if businesses aren't aggressive, you know, within a few hours, that area is so trampled it just turns to ice. So I think we do want to make sure people in the commercial areas are held to a higher standard, because, like I say, that if they don't, that snow gets trampled so quickly and so wide that it creates a long-term hazard, and then it's hard for them to even address it. So like I say, I think it's worth it. Let's send it to Rules and Ordinance. I know we got a bit of a queue, but I think probably by June we could get something together that makes sense. And but I do think it is a big issue for our people with disabilities, and I do see it as a particular issue in our squares. That it's kind of crazy that you have these great sidewalks that are plowed, and then people can't cross the street in key areas because the ramps aren't cleared. And I know it's a difficulty, but I mean, either we got to figure it out as a city or as, you know, and with cooperation of our residents. But I do think that, I think that, you know, it's important because there are a lot of people in our cities. Like I say, 40% of our people don't drive. And so people are walking to buses, going to our squares. This helps our businesses. It helps make it safe. So I think we need to work and make this, because we're sort of incomplete. And, you know, City of Boston does this. You know, it is just something as we've made an effort to do more, and I think we've made a lot of progress on our sidewalks. This is a little piece of more work to make it work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor Condon, I think, said it best. I don't agree with changing the rules of the game halfway through the winter. I do recall that we just amended our snow shoveling ordinance not that long ago, and it was a pretty comprehensive effort. Also, we are talking about public property, and in some cases, it's the plowing operations that actually set up a snowbank in a particular corner, and you might have an instance where you have an elderly person incapable of shoveling out an entire snowbank, and maybe at some point it is the government's responsibility to clear some of these sidewalks, right? I mean, our residents, we pay a lot of taxes. They care a lot about their community. They're already shoveling off their sidewalk, their porch for the mailman and everything else. I wouldn't pass this on the fly, nor would I pass it halfway through the winter. I agree with the tabling motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you. On a procedural question, I would think that we probably should have stifled all of the discussion, because there was a tabling motion on the floor, and a tabling motion says that we should vote the tabling motion. But having said that, and everyone else has talked, let me just chime in and say that I think that it is important that we look at not just this limited amount of change to the snow regulations, if you will, but we need to look at this holistically, you know, for all the reasons that have been mentioned earlier about the burden that it puts on the homeowners, and the amount of burden that it puts on the homeowners when it's our city plows that are plowing back into the driveways. They don't have an awful lot of choice about that. You know, when they want to keep the roads open, you got to keep plowing the streets. And when they keep plowing the streets, they keep pushing the snow into the driveways. And we, as ward councilors, we all hear these complaints from people who are saying, why can't they turn the blade the other way? Well, so we need to look at it holistically about what we need to do as an entire city and taking care of this problem, taking care of the problem at the crosswalks and the corners that has been mentioned earlier. You know, it's not the residents' problem, not the residents to solve the problem of these crosswalks and handicap ramps. They need to be done, so we should be looking at it holistically. And I would think that the rules and ordinances is probably the wrong place to send it. I think that may be good to put the ordinances back together, but I think it probably should be referred to the Public Works Department, because it's the Public Works Department that is weighing in this that they're the folks who are gonna be doing the work. That gives us time to work at it throughout the spring and into the summer so that we can have something in place as we enter into the next winter season. So I would move that we not table, but we refer it to the Public Works Department for further consideration.
Seconded. There's already a table on the table.
Councilor Spatafora.
What Councilor Anderson, I said is important, I think, in terms of, precedent with the table, and I'll support the table motion. My concern is 12 hours may seem out there, I think, to the public, an awful long time, but I think, and I know these are commercial properties, but if anybody who's ever removed snow, I know there's a counselor on here who's done that, I mean, you have vehicles that break down on a continuous basis, 12 hours, especially if you're hiring a company to come in and do it, and they have multiple properties, 12 hours is not a long time to remove that snow, and then, I don't know if everybody knows, but Malden Square, when there was a bad snowstorm 2 years ago, a bad winter 2 or 3 years ago, when we had all those feet of snow, the city of Malden removed the snow from the square, not the business owners. The city came in and trucked that out, right? And I can guarantee you they didn't do that in 12 hours. So if we're gonna hold a commercial owner to that, and we should hold ourselves accountable. I live across from the Elm School. I know, the BB Junior High, they don't remove it in 12 hours, not because they don't want to, it's because they got 25 pieces of property in the city that they have to remove it all. So I think that 12-hour window is very important besides, the mechanical issues that break down, the type of snowstorm it is, the amount of snow, those 12 hours make a huge difference. I know somebody, even myself, when you have a big snowstorm, it takes a couple hours with a snowblower for me to do my yard. And now, if you're not going to give me the ability for a couple more hours, you're going to come in and write me a ticket, I have an issue with that. The intent, I understand, but the malice, I think, is more important than the intent. If somebody's not doing it all the time, we can ticket them as it is after 24 hours. The idea to do it mid-season and to change it just for that, I agree with Councilor Anderson. This is a holistic approach. Some of it is city, right? Some of it is consequences, but we have to kind of look at it in a larger picture. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Condon's.
Since nobody cares about my table motion, I might as well speak too. But we got 7 or 8 months to develop something, all right? We have so many ordinances that we have to address. There's so many people fighting for committee time. The committee time is dwindled down to like 5 committees, 15 minutes apiece. To table this thing for 2 or 3, 4 months isn't gonna bother anybody. So I still have my table motion on.
Councilor Condon's motion to table, seconded by Councilor Murphy. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, roll call.
Okay. Anderson?
No.
Kamel? Condon, Councilor Condon?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe?
Yes.
Councilor DiMaria? No. Councilor Matheson?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley? No. Councilor Spatafora?
Yes.
Councilor Winslow?
No.
Council President Seeker?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes.
Table.
Table.
Passes. The paper has been tabled. Next order of business.
Order that the City Council establish a Cannabis Control Commission consisting of 5 members, police chief, financial expert, building commissioner, city employees, and 1 city council appointment and 1 mayoral appointment.
Councilor Spatafora for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think that this will be repetitive in terms of, for the ordinance committee. This is included in our paper that's in front of us, an ordinance. The reason and the rationale behind, for taking this out of that ordinance as a separate paper is after much discussion with the ordinance committee and Mr. Hogan, who's been helping us gather a lot of the data, if we waited to the conclusion of the final ordinance, which I think we're very close, we would then the Cannabis Commission would not only have to get those 3 members up to speed, pass some of their own rules and regulations, terms, salary, et documents, kind of the logistics of that committee, which is new. We also have to find, as it referred to here, a mayoral appointment as well as a council appointment. So we would have to put out some advertisement, get some letters of resumes in here, and then vote on them. So that process if we took after the establishment of an ordinance, would only push out the cannabis licensing process further than it already has been. So by taking it out of the ordinance, we'll hopefully, by taking it out of the current ordinance, we're gonna refer to ordinance, we're gonna hopefully vote on it out of ordinance, and then come back here to ordain or enroll, and then the Cannabis Commission can start working in parallel with the final ordinance. The hope is, Council Winslow had a couple papers that we consolidated as part of his ordinance too. Once everything is established, the Cannabis Control Commission, all the ordinances, we will then go back. I know it's a little kind of uncharacteristic of what we're doing, but then we'll put it back in one big ordinance, so everything's in one document, not only for the benefit of the council, but the benefit of somebody who's applying for this. There's one spot for all the information, et cetera. So this is only to fast track that process and not delay the establishment of a control committee and give them some time to go ahead and go further. Happy to take any questions. It's only being referred to ordinance, though.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not on ordinance, as you know, but I've sat in a number of these meetings, and I think it's extremely important that we move forward with this and fast track it, and I would like to be added as a sponsor to the paper, please.
From the council's, from the chair's perspective, anybody else who wants to be added to this, please, happy to do so. I think it was a good recommendation. This is something myself and the council president had a conversation about, and then just looking at the timetables, Councilor Crowe and myself and Mr. Hogan thought, hey, why don't we do this now so we don't have to wait? And the hope is to get those 3 city bodies up and running in a timely fashion. I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you, Madam President.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer to ordinance, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The matter has been referred to ordinance. Next order of business.
It's a claim Nicholas Ormos, 119 Boylston Street, Malden. And I have another claim, Neil McCormick, 24 Tremont Street, Malden. Oh, I'm sorry. That the City Council adopt the provisions of Robert's Rules as they relate to imposing sanctions. I'm sorry about that.
Councilor Spatafora for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, again, another recommendation to go to ordinance. As the council is aware, our current rule book has established Robert's Rules, or unless, and I know the assistant city solicitor is here, unless that rule conflicts to our city council rules. If you go through the council council rules, there is nothing there about censuring, the ability for the council president by a vote to do any type of disciplinary act to any member of the council. It is in Robert's Rules. Theoretically, it's probably established in our rules, but this will only make it will clarify it and make a section. This is just going to ordinance. There is a bunch of things in Robert's Rules. I am not at all picking and choosing any of them. I think there's 4 or 5 in there. Some are non-relevant to us, to be quite honest with you, but it's going to go to ordinance. We'll vote on it as an ordinance committee and send it back for the president's, for the council to look at. And then whatever we decide to do, if we do decide to anything, will just be added to Robert's Rules. Technically, though, after speaking with the city solicitor, it probably is inside our rule book because we have adopted the exception of Robert's Rules. However, speaking to the legal department, they would probably better to take it out. Other communities have done that because they don't accept all of Robert's Rules because there's the ability to remove off the committee altogether. There's the ability to lawsuits. I don't expect that. I just think the ability to have something like this in there only benefits the council. That's all it is. Thank you, Madam President. Yes,
thank you. On Councilor Spatafora's motion to refer to ordinance, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The matter has been referred to ordinance. Next order of business.
Okay, I have 2 claims. Nicholas O'Mills, 119 Boylston Street, Malden, and Neil J. McCormick, 24 Tremont Street, Malden. There's 2 claims.
On Councilor Kamel's motion to refer to finance, all those in favor? All those opposed? Referred to finance. Next order of business.
I have 2 enrolled ordinance. Be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the revised ordinance of 1991 as amended be further amended relative to allowing multifamily dwellings only up to 7 stories. This is to be ordained.
Would you like to speak on it?
Yes, I'd actually like to request a 2-minute recess so that we have a full council here for this vote.
Sure.
Thank you.
We're 2-minute recess, waiting for Councilor Spatafora to come back to the floor. Thank you. Councilor O'Malley, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is last meeting, we clarified that all of the sponsors weren't showing on the paper, which is Councilor Spatafora, Councilor Matheson, and myself. So that was something that we clarified last meeting. I know that we also tabled the meeting minutes to review the video, but if we could have the rest of the sponsors added to this paper, then it would be accurate.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I will be voting in support of the paper. I mean, I think this is sort of a capstone of all the work that's gone on to add housing downtown. But I do think as a city, as we kind of take this step, I think we also need to also look forward. You know, one of the things that's been important for Malden is that it's been a place for people who are middle class and working class to live because it's been affordable. And I think as a city, we still need to be committed to stay as an affordable city. And that's not going to happen in the current housing environment unless we do that intentionally. So I hope as a council, we can look at our housing production and ensure that people who have traditionally lived in Malden can continue to live here. And so I am supporting this, but I also think that we do have to think about how we remain as an affordable community, because I think Malden will lose something if we don't have an intentional plan for affordability. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Ordained. Okay, on Councilor Spatafora's motion to ordain the ordinance, clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Condon? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor DeMaria? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Councilor Seeker?
Yes. The matter is ordained. Next order of business.
Okay. Be it hereby ordained that section 700.1.3.1 of Chapter 12 of the revised ordinance of 1991 as amended be further amended to add the following language. She didn't give me the paper. What's the following language? She didn't give me the paper, yeah. That was Councilor Murphy and Councilor Spatafora.
Councilor Spatafora, do you want to speak on this?
No, we spoke last week.
We don't have the following language.
If you want to go on the next, I might have, this is Michelle Romero's additional language that wasn't shown reflected in the docket. I might have it. If you want to move on to the next paper, I don't know.
This is it.
I don't know if you, whatever, can you recess for like 2 minutes and I'll look?
Sure, we will recess again for 2 more minutes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So this was the one, I apologize, I misspoke. The one from before, we enrolled, we didn't ordain. Now we're ordained. We already heard that.
I don't have it. Let's see, this is,
I just want to confirm the feet. Was it 65 feet? No, 35. I thought we changed it.
No, that's
The bottom, that was the other one. Okay, Madam President, I do have the language if you want to call the council back in. So I can read it, and I'll also give it the clerk for the planning board recommendation, which were provided last week, and I believe it was read, but I'll read it again. Provided, so that the recommendation was added with the following language. Provided that in the case of an existing building or structure containing more than 3 stories and/or having a height of 35 feet or more, where the change of use is to multifamily dwelling use, no increase in height shall be allowed, and in the case of reconstruction or new construction, the only multifamily dwelling use of the property that shall be allowed is dwelling multifamily up to 3 stories exclusively. These provisions are use regulations, and there shall be no variance of these provisions. That was the recommendation from the board, which we did accept in ordinance. I do have it. If you need a copy, I can provide it to you. That's all I have, Madam President. I think we got to accept the, I don't know, because you.
No, it's an
We're ordaining.
Oh, you didn't have the language to, okay, I'm sorry. Yep, so make me the motion to ordain.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
On Councilor Spata's for his motion to ordain, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. The clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Kamel? Yes. Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe?
Yes.
Counselor DiMaria? Yes. Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy? Yes. Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor Spatafora?
Yes.
Counselor Winslow? Yes. Council President Sika?
Yes. The matter is ordained. Next order of business.
Table papers. Executive session.
Yes.
Okay, which one do you want first?
That one first, and then that one.
Okay. The Malden City Council will vote as to whether to enter into executive session with legal counsel for the City Council for the purpose of Exemption 3, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation, City of Malden versus Zawiski, public discussion of which may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the City of Malden.
On Councilor DiMaria's motion to admit Attorney Ken Rossetti, legal counsel to the council, and Maria Luis, special assistant to the mayor, into executive session, the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Kamel? Yes. Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Yes. Counselor DiMaria? Yes. Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy? Yes. Counselor O'Malley? Yes. Counselor Spatafora? Yes. Counselor Winslow? Yes. Council President Sika?
Yes. They have been admitted into executive session. On Councilor DiMaria's motion to enter into executive session with Attorney Rossetti and Maria Luis, clerk will call the roll.
This is for the first.
For the first one.
First one, yes.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Kamel? Yes. Counselor Condon? Yes. Counselor Crowe? Counselor DiMaria? Counselor Matheson? Counselor Murphy? Counselor O'Malley? Counselor Spatafora? Counselor Winslow? Council President Seeker?
Yes.
Okay. And now we have another.
Yes.
The council will vote regarding whether or not to go into an executive session with legal counsel pursuant to exemption 7, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to compel with or act under the authority of general law to discuss the open meeting law complaint filed by Councilor Ryan O'Malley against the City Council relative to the February 11th, 2019 regarding various executive sessions.
Councilor Winslow.
No, I just had a question. Are we going to do personal privilege before we go to executive session, or what are we doing here? So, yeah.
I was going to do it after. I apologize.
Okay, it's, yeah. Just good.
Okay.
So, okay, have it before going into executive session. All right, good. Thank you.
Somebody else just had their light. They're all set? It was you? Okay. On Councilor Spatafora's motion not to enter executive session and to allow Council President to advise legal counsel to respond to the complaint on behalf of the council, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? No. Councilor Condon? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor DiMaria? No. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? No. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President Seeker?
Yes.
That passes.
Personal privilege. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, a couple things. I just dropped off with people. I reached out to some counselors. Last year, I organized a list of spring cleanups, so I've got a draft together. So let me know if you have some dates in mind already, so I can just, as they get together, kind of the citywide list, let me know. So that's one of the things. So those will be starting in March and running through May. So let me know. And the other thing I want to let people know is on March 21st, I've helped organize a forum called Transporting Malden into the Future. So this is kind of a two-part thing. We're actually going to have a big electric bus come to Malden for a visit, and then have some e-vehicles, including this Bonzer vehicle that's sort of a car share that's we're looking at having come to Malden. And then there'll be some sessions talking about what other communities have done and sort of to make some dedicated bus lanes. Everett and representatives from Everett and Arlington will come. We'll also have someone who worked very hard in Somerville to get new T stations there. And the keynote is actually Jackie DeWolf, who's the head of sustainable transportation for the state. So just a good, interesting forum to try to get Malden to think about what we can do more in terms of transportation and have that be greener transportation. So that's in your packet, and there'll be more information coming out, but I just want to let people know about that. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to call everyone's attention. You did receive in your packet tonight a report. This is in privilege, right? The Inspector General report?
What is it?
The Inspector General? No. Okay. So I just wanted to call everyone's attention that you did receive a report that has been long awaited. I first heard about this in 2016. And it's a report on the internal control review following larceny and embezzlement in permits inspection in the Planning Services Department. Highly recommend you read it. It doesn't tell us really anything new, but it's something that we should be acting upon. So I know that we've been waiting for this for a long time. That's number one. And then I believe it's this Thursday, the 21st, the North Shore Hispanic Association will be holding their annual gala at 6 p.m. Again, this Thursday, February 21st, and it'll be here at the Senior Center. Aside from that, there will be a Malden River Forum hosted next Monday, the 25th, from 1 to 3 p.m. at River's Edge. It's hosted by the City of Malden, Medford, Everett, and it's kind of being organized by the Office of Senator Lewis. And then the 26th, State of the City, hosted by the Chamber of Commerce in the City of Malden, 7:30 a.m. On Tuesday, the 26th. And aside from that, the Charter Review Commission will be meeting 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 27th, to discuss the ongoing charter review. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe you're familiar with this, maybe you're not. I mentioned it briefly earlier. The MBTA is going to do a complete remodel of the Oak Grove T Station. That's the top of the orange line. This is going to add accessibility for all modes of transportation, as well as a reconfiguration of the parking there, new elevators, and really quite an overhaul. So that's a benefit to the community. It's going to span over a couple construction seasons, and we expect that to start this fall. They're doing some design work now. We're going to endeavor to get the plans up online so people can see it. Obviously, it impacts all of us, and it's good news. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, the council will enter into executive session, and we will reconvene only for the purposes of adjournment.